Hello and welcome, everybody. We are live. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on Alianza Minerals Limited. My name is Jacob Willoughby. I'm a Vice President of Research and Analyst at Red Cloud Securities Incorporated. Joining me remotely today are Jason Weber, President and CEO, and Mark Brown, Executive Chairman of Alianza Minerals. We'll begin today's webinar with a presentation on the company by Jason and Mark, followed by a question and answer period. As a reminder, you can type in your questions at any time, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. But before we begin, I'd like to note that there may be some forward-looking statements made in this webinar, and I would direct listeners to the cautionary notes on page 2 of Alianza Minerals' corporate presentation located on their website. For Red Cloud Securities Incorporated, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only, should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. Also, we note that this webinar does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Company-specific disclosures for Red Cloud are the following. In the past 12 months preceding the date of issuance of the research report or recommendation, Red Cloud Securities Incorporated has been retained under a service or advisory agreement by the issuer. Also, Red Cloud Securities is currently engaged as a finder for the company to assist in its announced private placement financing press release yesterday, September 21st, 2020. And now I'm very happy to introduce you to Jason Weber and Mark Brown of Alianza Minerals.
Thank you very much, Jacob. We're really happy to be here today. Thanks everyone for joining us for Alianza Minerals webinar with Red Cloud. I'm going to start out here and then Jason's going to jump in with the more exciting stuff. But overall, we just want to make sure that you understand that our focus in Alianza is to make a discovery of an economic mineral deposit, which is what will drive shareholder value and make a good return for all our shareholders and investors. In doing that, we're working in some key excellent areas, very mining-friendly areas of North and South America. We're in areas that are near head frames with historic mining. And we're following a model which we call the hybrid prospect generator model, where we have a key project, a flagship project, if you will, that we work with, which is the Haldane Silver Project in the Keno Hill area in the Yukon. And then our other projects, we look for partners to help advance those and to fund the exploration on those. So we have a joint venture on the Tim Silver Project in the Yukon with Coeur Mining. We also have a joint venture with Hochschild's Mining, which we just finished drilling on the Horsethief Project down in Nevada. And then we have other projects that we acquire from time to time, some we drop from time to time, and we're always looking for partners to advance those. One of the key parts to our group here and making all this happen, obviously, is our team. We're working in excellent jurisdictions on very mineral endowed areas, but you've got to have the people to make that happen on all different areas. Jason Weber, who you're going to hear from a minute ago, is a geologist, President and CEO. He's formerly worked with Kiska Mining. He did a lot of work on the Whistler Project in Alaska years ago. He's also worked with Rimfire and Equity Exploration. He's been a pleasure to work with, and he and I together have decided that with Alianza, we want to get things moving fast here. And even at the end of the downturn last year, we knew we needed to get more projects, buy them while the prices were still low before they've gone up, and get them advanced as fast as we can to either drop them or make a major discovery for our shareholders. And so that's what we're working on. We recently added Rob Duncan, Masters in Geology, to our team. He's worked with some major companies, but he's also worked with some junior companies. And he's been a huge asset to us. He's been a consultant for us for the last year, and he has now come on full time to help us advance our key project and also to work at finding joint venture partners for our other projects. My claim to fame, if you will, and I've worked with several companies, but one of the ones that was really fun to work with was Rare Element Resources, which we started, and I call it my 12-year overnight success. And it was a rare earth company that we listed on New York. I got to ring the bell of New York, and it became a $15 share company. very exciting. We've had some other smaller successes, but that was one of the biggest ones we've worked on. Rounding out our team here, we've got Winnie Wong, ex of Deloitte's, who's worked with me for quite a number of years. And she really focuses on making sure everything's really good shape in the administration, so Jason and I can focus on building the company. Craig Lindsay, one of our directors, has recently sold Otis Gold to Excelon. Before that, he actually sold Magnum Uranium to Energy Fuels, and he's run quite a few juniors. He's excellent on the financial advice. John Wilson, one of our senior geological directors, has worked all over the world, loves focusing on the geology. He's great oversight for our geological team, and just a key person and pleasure to work with. Mark Blythe, rounding out our board of directors, is a mining engineer, grew up in New Zealand, but worked with Placer Dome in Australia, putting mines into production. More recently, he's worked with Nevsun, which was sold recently to a major Chinese company. And he's been a huge asset for us to have. Very much looks at our projects from the point of view as to whether or not they'll become an operating mine. Just looking at our capital structure, we have 110 million shares outstanding now. And those shares are owned by a group of very supportive shareholders that we all keep in touch with, and we know them very well. There's funds in Austria, Germany, California, Canada. There's also a number of very wealthy individuals that have worked with us on prior companies with both Jason and I. And those people are really focused on making major gains. They're very much long-term focused, as are we, in making a discovery and supporting us in doing that. They're not day-to-day traders, except for probably the retail portion. And that group has supported us through the downturn and got us to where we are today. And we're quite excited to be able to look at making that group some money as this market is getting a lot better. And obviously with our gold and silver projects, we're getting a lot of attention on those now. We do have a number of individual shareholders, including a Mexican billionaire, people from the US, and other individuals from Europe that are also major shareholders of the company. So I will turn it over to Jason now to go ahead and jump into some of the key projects that the company has. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Mark, and thanks, Jacob, for allowing us to make this webinar presentation today, and thank you for everybody for tuning in to listen to what we have to say. We're really excited about our prospects going forward, and I'll jump right in with our wholly owned Haldane property in the Keno district of the Yukon. Of course, the Keno district is a historic camp with over 100 years of production that's amounted to over 217 million ounces of silver produced in that time. And most recently, Alexco Resources, who's in this map on the right-hand side, you can see here that this is the Alexco package in light green. This is the sort of the core of the Keno district. Our property in the red, just to the left on this map, is our holdings, basically the western edge of the Keno district. So really exciting place to be. Canada's second largest silver producer, so a fantastic area for us to be exploring. Now, Haldane itself, it's obviously a proven mining district. We're very, very fortunate to have a road accessible property. We can drive right into the main showing areas. Really important for us, the fact that this is a high-grade silver target. In the Keno district, that's what it's known for. It's high-grade silver. But I think what's a little bit different here is the fact that at Haldane, it is underexplored, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. So the potential is really for us to find new vein systems as well as expand on the vein systems that have been identified to date. We can do that at depth and along strike. So we see some great potential there to grow what we have already. And we have this confidence in the fact that we made a new discovery in one of our 4 holes that we drilled in 2019. And we do have a Class 3 land use permit in place that allows us the flexibility to explore this project for the foreseeable future. Just looking at the infrastructure of the area, where the nearest town is Mayo, just expanding the terminal at Mayo. It's got sched flight for the nearby Eagle mine, so there is good access to Mayo by air. Just see, knowing that we're near the existing Keno operations, obviously has some benefits, and there's just a shot from last year of our road into the property. A good road, great access, easy for us to get on the property. Here's a view from looking basically to the west from the Hector Calumet portal, which was the largest silver producer in the Keno district. It's shut down now, but this is just looking back down through the valley. That in the foreground, that treed area, that's the stratigraphy, that's the rocks that host most of the Keno district deposits. And you can see Mount Haldane in the distance there. That's our property there. Most of our showings sit on the back side of that hillside, and you will facing west. Looking at the geology of the Keno Hill district, it's really important to note that the blue-gray rocks there that you see, which is the basal quartzite, host most of the deposits in the Keno district. This unit is very important due to the way that it breaks. It forms, when faults go through it, it forms nice veins that can form economic deposits. And you can see on the Haldane property on the left-hand side of this slide, we do have a good portion of that basal quartzite that exists on the property. So we know we're in the same rocks. We're in the right environment to find more Keno style veins, and that's really exciting for us. As I mentioned on the outset, the history at Haldane it really matches that of the Keno district, except to say that at Haldane, exploration has been very sporadic. So there is excellent exploration potential here, and you can say that it is underexplored. The original showings were found back in 1915 era, about the time that they found the original deposits at Keno. And there was a little bit of work done, some underground development at what we call Middlecoff and Johnson veins. Some high-grade mineralization was produced from there. Really, it sat until the 1960s. There's some more work done on surface, some trenching that's still evident today. A lot of the road work on the property, the road network is due to that work. And there was some expansion of the underground workings as well during that time. And then the property sat again until, about 2008. Another junior company got involved, took the property on, drilled some holes. With the 12 holes or so they drilled, it brought the total number of surface drill holes on the property to 13. We acquired the property in 2018, did a full assessment of the entire property, and drilled 4 more holes in 2019, bringing the total amount of surface drilling to 17 holes on the property. So lots of room to explore here, and really has not seen a lot of exploration. So just keying into the core of the property and where a lot of the old timers focus their effort here in the red inset, you can see what we call the Mount Haldane vein system, and on the left you can see some of the targets outlined there. There's the Middlecoff and Johnson. You can see that's where the underground workings were done. And when we took this on, we thought, okay, we've got this Mount Haldane vein system. We know there's something there. What does the rest of that basal quartzite, that steel blue unit, hold as far as potential? So we assessed the whole property through prospecting, soil sampling, and we were to discover some new target areas, and you can see those highlighted on this slide. And probably the one of most significance is the Bighorn anomaly, which is just to the northeast or upper left of the red inset box. And that's a new discovery we made through soil sampling that we tested with drilling last year and hit Keno-style veins. But just jumping back to the Mount Haldane vein system, really where the old timers started their work, you can see here, these are some hand-drawn level plans from some of the 1960s work by Dr. Arrow E. Aho, very well-known geologist in the Yukon. He spent a fair amount of time here underground mapping, sampling and really highlighted some of the targets we've been following up. And some of the key areas here, there was a high-grade winds in here where Dr. Aho had done some work highlighting over 13 meters of sampling. He averaged 775 grams per ton silver. So really nice high-grade numbers. And that's to go along with the almost 25 tons of 3,000 grams per ton silver that was produced in 1918, 1919. So pretty obvious the old timers, were pretty selective in what they took out of here. But you can see the high-grade mineralization that Dr. Aho sampled really supports the high-grade nature. What's of real interest to us is just to the south, there's a drill hole here, an underground hole that was drilled in the 1960s, about 40 meters south of the workings. That hole intersected 2,791 grams per ton silver over 1.2 meters. Never been followed up. That's something that we'd like to concentrate on in our next round of work. So this is the geologic map of the Middlecoff area, and just showing some of those underground workings. We drilled 2 holes last year to test some of the high-grade winds material that Dr. Aho sampled, and again we hit some high-grade mineralization there. We're really happy to start to define what we think is potentially a high-grade shoot. And that was highlighted in this cross section with some of the intersections we made here. We had over a 10.6 meter intersection, 125 grams per ton silver, but within that we had some shorter intersections. The highest grade one, 1,000 grams silver and 1.5 grams gold over 35 centimeters. Within that, there's another meter section of 500 grams silver. So some nice high grades. We're starting to get a handle on what this zone might be doing, and that's another area we'd be looking to follow up in our next round of drilling. Now this is a view back across the valley to the north from the Middlecoff, looking up to towards the Johnson adit in the middle. Again, back in the 1920s, there's 2 tons of 4,600 grams per ton silver produced out of this adit by the old timers. You can see some of the faults that have silver-bearing mineralization along them, and you can see the network of roads going up the hillside from the trenching programs done in the 1960s, and we can use most of that road network in our ongoing exploration. But as I said earlier, one of the things we did was we really wanted to take a look at the whole property, see what we could identify outside of the Mount Haldane vein system. And that's highlighted by our Bighorn discovery, which is about 3 kilometers to the west of the area of the Mount Haldane vein system. And that was really important for us because that was a bit of a proof of concept that we took this property on thinking that we could find more new vein sets, and we've done just that. So this is the close-up view of the Bighorn geochemical anomaly. Our road runs through right through the anomaly here at the southern portion of it. It's the green dashed line. We drilled a hole right from our road, testing the soil geochem, and we're fortunate enough to hit 4 veins in that drill hole. While they're not ore grade at this point, what you're really looking to do in this district, and this comes straight from the geologists at Alexco, who have been very, very helpful and forthcoming with information in helping us with our exploration, is you want to find silver-bearing veins. And once you do that, then you can start to move out along those veins, down dip, along strike, to identify the high-grade shoots. So we hit 2.35 meters of 125 grams silver in vein intersection number 1, highlighted on here, and we hit silver mineralization in these other intersections as well. So a great start. This is a new area for us, 3 kilometers to the west of the existing Mount Haldane vein system, and importantly, a proof of concept that we can find more vein mineralization elsewhere in that basal quartzite unit. The other area of potential for us is what we call the West Fault. And the West Fault is one of the 4 blue faults identified on this system, on this slide, and the west fault sits right in this area up here. And that was found by a previous operator on the project in about the 2010 time period. Hole 9 in 2011 actually hit the fault. Not much follow-up's been done on it, but really an open area for us to follow up. And they were able to intersect 320 grams per ton silver with over 1 gram gold in it. So a nice intersection, fairly close to surface. We're only 200 meters depth here. So there's room for us to follow this at depth and along strike. And that'll be another target area for us in our upcoming drill program. So when looking at the Keno district, what we really need to see is, check the boxes on, do we have a Keno style system here? Mineralization is hosted in the basal quartzite, just like elsewhere in the Keno district. The same structurally controlled vein and breccia mineralization in northerly trending vein and complex fault systems. Mineralization is very similar. The species of silver minerals that we see and the gang minerals with that match that of the other Keno district property. So we feel really confident in this project and what we're able to identify as far as additional Keno style mineralization going forward. So the next steps for us and a big reason of the current financing that we announced yesterday is to fund the next stage of drilling at Mount Haldane. I think at this point, we're really going to focus on the extension of the Middlecoff Zone, the areas where the old timers had done some of their underground development, identifying that high-grade mineralization. And then at the West Fault, that's I think the next priority area that we'll be looking at, following up on that 320 gram per ton silver with the gram gold intersection that was intersected in 2011. And with that work, I think we're going to be able to drill enough holes in these target areas that we'll be able to resolve some of the structural complexities in the Mount Haldane vein system, and we'll be able to better vector further rounds of drilling to identify additional high-grade mineralization. If we do have time this year in this fall program, we will look at doing some more drilling at the Bighorn, following up on that, and then another soil geochemical anomaly. We tried one hole last year, we're unsuccessful, but we've been able to resolve the geology a bit better there, and we'd like to follow up at the what we call the Ross anomaly as well. Those could get pushed back to early 2021 if we don't have time to finish those in this fall program. So just to touch on a couple other projects in the portfolio, and both of these projects are partnered with producers. The first one being Horsethief, where we just finished a 10-hole reverse circulation program, 26 kilometers east of Pioche, Nevada. This is about 3 hours to the northeast of Vegas. This is a historic mining district. You can see in the photo on the bottom right. Everybody in the town of Pioche has a waste dump in their backyard. They're very familiar with the mining industry, and although most of the exploration and development in this area has been for silver, it's been only recently recognized for its potential to host sediment-hosted gold-style mineralization, which we've targeted in our work. So the basic story here is that back in the 1980s, there's an outcrop of carbonate stratigraphy hosts the mineralization. There's some shallow drilling done. This was done largely before we understood Carlin-style deposits. There was some anomalous gold identified. We picked up the project a number of years ago, tried to build out the story to look at the potential for Carlin-style mineralization here, and we did that. We also identified that going east from this block of carbonate stratigraphy, which is shown in the blues, going out to the east under the volcanic cover, there was potential as well. So our drill program was divided between testing the older areas that were tested in the 1980s, testing those deeper, and testing out under the volcanic cover into brand new areas. And the idea here was most of the drilling was done We just use a Long Canyon as a bit of an analogy here. Most of the drilling was done in the upper rocks above this OC contact, which we've highlighted right here. Most of the old drilling was in this area up here. We wanted to test down below this to see if there was potential for additional higher grade mineralization. So that's been a lot of the basis for the drill program we conducted this year. And this shows it really well. You can see those younger rocks are in the greens, and the darker blue rocks would be the older rocks below the unconformity. And so a lot of our drilling was designed to get through these green rocks into the blue rocks below. There's also some potential for mineralization at the unconformity that exists here between the volcanic rocks and those younger rocks as well. And we've tested some of that target with drilling as well this year. This is just some of the anomalous intersections that were hit in the 1980s work. And that's really the basis for the follow-up that we did. We've announced holes 1 to 6 on this project, hit very similar numbers to what was seen in the 1980s drilling. We're just waiting on holes 7, 8, 9, and 10 here to get the results of those holes. Those hopefully will come out in mid-October. Just some shots of the drill program in the area from the 2020 program. And as I said, we're expecting to get results of this program hopefully in mid-October. The last project I'll touch on is Tim in the southern Yukon. This is a really neat target. We just optioned to Coeur Mining. They have the Silvertip mine, which is about 11 kilometers to the south of us, actually in British Columbia. We're right near the British Columbia-Yukon border here. Back in the 80s, there was some trenching done here that uncovered some really high-grade silver mineralization, very similar to what they've been mining at Silvertip. Coeur was interested in developing outside of their existing mine activity, which is great for us in that if they find something here, it's a pretty easy startup. It'll be basically just trucking material down to their 11 kilometers to their existing facilities at the Silvertip mine. So lots of strike length potential here. Mineralization has a lot left to be uncovered as far as what the nature of it is, but I think Coeur taking their expertise exploring at the mine site will be very valuable in applying that at Tim. You can see here, this is just the lay of the land, sorry, and zooming into the property. Here's Silvertip, it's just down to the southwest. Tim property lies just in here, and this is you can see the British Columbia-Yukon border in between. So some of the work we've done, you can see all the gray trenches outlined there, and you can see some of the old work. We went back in 2013 and followed up on some of the trenching. Had 356 grams silver over 3.7 meters following up, just reopening some of those trenches. So some nice high-grade material. Some areas left to be worked. You can see there's some areas off to the west that we'd like to do additional soil geochem, but a fantastic area. We're really glad to have Coeur along as a partner to advance this and hopefully have drill targets later in 2021. Just some of the hand trenching work that was done in 2013. You can see some of the numbers here: 6 meters, 220 grams silver, with some narrow intervals in that, and you can see the 3 areas that where the channel sampling was done here. So again, some program outline to look at the existing trenches, potentially do some new trenching. Some additional soil geochem, some mapping, especially structural mapping, identify the stratigraphy, and that will lead to the identification of drill targets. So for Alianza going forward here, it's going to be a busy fall for us. We'll have the drilling at Haldane starting up sometime in the fall, hopefully by mid-October. The Horsethief drilling results should be coming in. I've got it here late September. That's going to be pushed back to mid-October. We've got a couple other projects that I didn't talk about in Nevada, BP and Bellevue. We hope to get on the ground there to get a little bit of work done on those two projects. They're fairly early stage. We have some small programs there just to identify stratigraphy and help us hone in on target areas. See the Tim field work identified here. And then our newest acquisition, which is the Twin Canyon project in Colorado, where we're actually in the field today. Crews just mobilized to the site. We'll do a little bit more field work, hopefully some underground sampling at this project. There is an old adit on site, and with results of that coming out late December, maybe into January. So busy fall for us, lots of news flow. We have an active project portfolio, and I think because of that, combined with the fact that we're really focused on gold and silver, has brought a lot more market awareness to the company. Of course, working with groups like Red Cloud has also helped a lot. But I also think the fact that we have multiple active projects, meaning our investors have a greater exposure to discovery, has really brought attention to our company. And we aim to keep that going. A big part of our business model is not every project is going to be successful. So one of our jobs is to identify the next set of projects that are come on board, either for us to work ourselves or to bring partners in to advance as well. So we are active on that front as well to keep that project portfolio topped up and keep the news flow as steady as we can. And with that, I'll wrap it up. And you can see our contact information on the slide here. This presentation is also available on our website. If you go to the presentations page, it'll be at the very top, and you can go through this at your leisure. And of course, if there's any questions, we do encourage people to give us a call and follow up if need be.
Great. Thanks very much, Jason and Mark. That's an excellent presentation. And we have a couple of questions from our participants. First and foremost, there's someone asking about access and being able to drill specifically for Haldane. Is it something you can do year round?
Yeah, I think you're probably in the deepest part of winter. You may shut down for a while, but certainly through the fall, it shouldn't be a problem. One of the bigger concerns is water, access to water for drilling. This year, it was quite a rainy summer, so water access should be good. If not, we can truck water in. The road's good enough that we can bring a water truck in on it as well. We did that a little bit last year in our drilling. So, yeah, for the most part, there's the thaw period in the spring, which is pretty messy. But our goal is to be set up at some point here to be working almost year round.
Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time in the area, and for folks who haven't been there, the winters are cold and dark in the Yukon, but they're not anywhere near as cold and dark as they are in Northwest Territories, and they don't get quite as much snow. So, especially when you're near a town situation like this project, you can usually be able to drill most of the year. Almost everybody has that unfortunate time in the spring that we call melt up, where you can't really get machines around. Another question on Haldane is, when do you think you could begin drilling, and is there a drill in the area already, or is that something that has to come in?
Well, part of the reason we left this program to the fall was the fact it was due to COVID and the logistics of getting people into the Yukon to do work. As you can imagine, some of these northern communities, the healthcare system isn't set up to deal with a COVID outbreak. So they were very, very sensitive to people coming in from outside of the territory. So we respected that. It was very competitive to get drills and people. So with our ability to work later, we pushed the program back later so that we could have a little easier time getting access to drills and people to execute our program. So it should be better for us. And we'd hope to be maybe starting mobilize first week of October, but we're still working out some of the details right now, actually. So keep tuned for the next update.
Sure. Follow-up question on that, which I think I asked you guys previously, is where does the crew stay for Haldane?
We've got a few options. There is one group that operates essentially a camp out of the town of Mayo, which we could stay. It's probably not our first choice, just to have people in and out of that town and the potential for COVID there. So we'd like to stay out of town. We can build a camp on site. One of the photos in the presentation, you can actually see our camp set up down in the valley, so we could set up there. In the past, we've stayed at the Silver Trail Lodge, which is right at the turnoff for Haldane off the Silver Trail Highway that goes up to Keno and Elsa. And we're also talking to some of the other companies working in the area that may have room in their camp. So we haven't decided yet. It's going to be which is the most cost effective, and that's one of the things we're working out right now.
Right. Okay. Now, when we spoke last, maybe a couple weeks ago, I was asking you about drill holes and targets, and I think the answer was that you were still working on it. Subject to the financing, how many holes do you think you'd like to drill, and how many of them have you got locked down that you're pretty sure you want to drill?
I'd say there's 7 that we've locked down. I think we've got sort of 3 at the West Fault area, which is kind of we're still a bit up in the air where we're going to start. But right now, I'll say the plan is to start at the West Fault and drill 3 holes there, and we have 1 contingency hole identified there as well. And then at the Middlecoff Zone, we've got another 4 holes, 3, and then a contingency there. So our hope is that we could get those holes done before December. The plan is to kind of shut it down around there. And at some point, it may just get too expensive to work for the setup that we have at this point, and we might pull out a little early. But that's the idea right now, is seven holes and targeting those 2 areas. And the reason for targeting those 2 areas, other than we really like the targets, is that their proximity to each other just allows for the logistics to be run a little bit easier, just working on those 2 target areas. Sure.
Right. I wanted to say that I really liked the checklist slide that you had specifically on Haldane, because I think it's important for folks who don't know much about exploration in the Keno district that those are 4 huge aspects, and you have all of them. And I think you rightly kind of pointed to the next steps, is that the next thing is really the structural analysis. Once you've got the veins and you have the right rocks, when you figure out where you are in relation to the faults and start moving along those, like I think you alluded to the Alexco sort of exploration model. And I've heard the same thing from other companies in the area, that when you have those big 4 building blocks down, the last thing is really that structure, and then you're hopefully off to the races.
Well, and we're really lucky. Not everybody is as helpful as Alexco is, and I think part of it is just they've got so many exploration targets there. Like they're full. There's no. You really don't feel competitive with them. They've been very forthcoming with information. They did a great tour last year in August, where you could actually go into some of these areas where they've had open pits, and you can look at the structure, and you can actually see how these veins formed in the walls of the pits. And it's really helpful for us, and that'll be really helpful in that structural analysis going forward.
Right. I thought it might be just good to mention to people that the company actually has several more properties than you went over today. A few more certainly in Nevada that I'm aware of, and actually some in South America, which are not surprisingly less of the focus right now, especially given the COVID situation.
Yeah, and that's. There's always a bit of a rationalization process for us. We have this project portfolio, and if you're not you got to sort of move through the projects, and some are going to have to fall to the wayside. They just don't cut it. That's part of what we're doing. So a lot of the work we do in the background is just moving these projects forward and making sure they meet criteria. And if they don't meet the criteria, we'll have to move them out. And we're always on the look for that next set of projects to come in. And we're kind of fortunate. It's harder work doing the early stage exploration, but the entry level for us is such that, it's affordable. And so even as the market's picked up, it's a little more expensive if you're dealing with a prospector or another small company to acquire their projects. But because it's so early stage, we can manage that a little better. So it is harder work, though. I mean, there's work that goes into building these projects up, so you can build that story to bring in that partner on it, or decide that you're going to move it forward yourself.
Jacob, some of the properties that we've moved out the door, we've not too many, but just a few. We've got a small portfolio of royalties. We've got a nice royalty next to an operating mine in Peru, and 3 royalties on little projects, exploration stage projects in Mexico. But they're just there in the background, and who knows, one day maybe they'll be worth something.
Yeah, and I'm glad, Jason, you touched on the partners that you have, who are excellent companies, Hochschild and Coeur. Maybe if you could just briefly go over the spending that they're doing on your properties.
Yeah, and thanks. I should have mentioned that on the outset. With Hochschild, they've spent about $700,000 this year US on Horsethief to move that project forward. So they're somewhere just over $1 million all in on their expenditures on that project. That's 100% funded by them. The program, last year this is the kind of the bonus when you're working with the bigger companies that they bring funding to the table, but they can also bring expertise. And some of the people that would come to the table because Hochschild was involved has been fantastic. And actually, we've now been working with some of these people on other projects. For example, the project we picked up in Colorado was through one of the experts that Hochschild brought in to work with us. So we have a relationship that goes on beyond Horsethief. So, investors are probably most interested in the funding commitments these companies make, but I also look at what kind of expertise they can bring to the table. And then, that extends to Coeur as well with what they've learned at Silvertip. They've had some fantastic success there in their near mine exploration this year, and they can apply that then now to our property. And so it's a great synergy there.
Great. Okay. There's maybe one more question on here from a participant, and then maybe we'll wrap it up for today. Just asking if you had any comments you could provide on the most recent results at Horsethief, which were sort of anomalous, but obviously not quite the grades and the excitement you were looking for.
Yeah, as soon as we put a drill on the site, it's you sort of get that tightness in your chest because it's either going to be great or it's not going to be great. And it's when you get the gray area in between, it really makes it tough. And we are disappointed. We were looking to make a discovery on every hole, but the fact that we're seeing alteration, we're seeing anomalous gold mineralization, we're in a system. It comes down to vectoring within that system now. Probably the toughest part in all this has been the delays at the lab, just getting results out to us. So our first set of gold results that we put out in August, we are now just getting the multi-element geochem in. We don't even have it all in yet. And that's really where we start to vector. So the disappointment is as much in timing of the results as it is the results too, because when you're out in the field and you've got the results, you can start to, go ground truth things and stuff like that. But, I would, the only thing I'd say is the next 4 holes we're waiting on, they all hit interesting rocks. They're mineralized, there's alteration there, but with this type of gold system, you need the results from the lab to say whether you've hit something or not. So, at this point, my guess is as good as anybody's whether those are going to run, but certainly they look promising. And we just got to wait and see what the lab says.
Okay, great. I know that labs in particularly in Nevada and BC have been quite overwhelmed, but with a lot of field seasons finishing up, hopefully that'll get worked through pretty shortly here. Jason and Mark, I want to thank you both for joining us and making yourselves available and giving us an excellent presentation. We look forward to seeing great things from the company. And I'd like to thank participants as well. Our next webinars will be, I believe, next week. We should have an announcement on the specifics of those starting tomorrow morning, I believe. So for now, thanks very much and stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.